This video is a special, a look behind the scenes at the campaign, a bit like the extras you used to get on DVDs, although maybe you still do. It's a look at some of the modelling and painting involved so far. Probably a good number of you are more interested in the story. If that's you, just skip this one. There's another video coming soon. But some of you might be interested in the miniature model aspect of the campaign. I don't know how many, but if it's well received, then I'll do some more of these later on. I'll start by looking at some of the orcs and goblins featured in the reports early on in the campaign. Kernag's Warg and the Little Warg and Seaboss Scarback's Green Corsairs. They were pretty prominent in the early chapters of the story. In the second video there was a story called the Green Corsairs with some crossbow-armed orcs. There used to be a Citadel Miniatures regiment, a regiment of renown I think they called them. It was called Ruglud's Armoured Orcs. Well, I didn't have that, so I wasn't going to use those. And besides, I didn't think pirate orcs would want too much armour on them. So I just bashed up my own using Plastic Games Workshop orcs. It's pretty simple. I just swapped the model's weapons with crossbows and posed them to work better in the pictures. I do this a lot with conversions. I don't want fighting poses with them swinging swords around and shooting bows and waving axes, because it really limits the kind of pictures you can do with them. You can only do pictures of them fighting. I need models that look like they're walking or just standing around or just chatting, which work in the pictures but work just as well on the tabletop field of battle, so I might as well model them like that now. Here you can see them before they were painted. I used crossbows from the Games Workshop Plastic Empire crossbow sprues and from the Free Company sprue. I had to cut the human hands off because they were way too small for the orcs' hands. I wanted the hands to match. Here you can see the rear rank. These are in straightforward marching poses. But the front rank have got a bit more variety. Not all the models lent themselves to being bashed into a marching pose. Here they are painted, but not yet based. I went for a white linen look with their clothing. Seemed more piratey to me. These were painted before I made the shift over to acrylics about 2 years ago. They've got a black enamel undercoat, and then I just used to block paint the rest on top. Usually one colour in a block, and then a few lighter highlights. Any mistakes, any smudges over the black lines, I just correct them later on with a small brush and black paint. Enamels are really sturdy. I never varnished anything. For decades I never varnished anything. I only started varnishing when I used acrylics. I've got figures from 4 decades ago that have barely suffered at all. I mean, occasionally you get a chip, you just repair it by painting it over, or you might repaint part of it because it's just got dirty from being handled too much. Next up, scratch-built snotling pump wagons. The Pumply Doodles. It's childish, I know, but that's what I call them. They featured first in the Little Warg battle report. First, I stuck several bits of plastic stripped together. Balsa wood, lollipop sticks, ogre weapons, spear tips, and black milliput. I'd not used the black stuff before. Boy, it really stains your fingers. It's a stubborn stain. I got most of the bits from my bits boxes. I'm a hoarder. The big wheels were hard plastic discs. I don't know where I got them from. Some toy, probably. And I used strips to make planks on the outside, but then just for ease and speed I just did a plank effect by scoring modelling putty on the inside. I didn't think anyone would be able to see the insides very well anyway. Here it's undercoated with the big wheels in place, and I thought this is starting to look like something. It's kind of Mad Maxy with a drag racer vibe going on. And I love the idea of the spiker roller at the front. Not in a Saw 2 horror film sense, all realistic and nasty, but in a crazy Goblins of the Labyrinth sense. I always loved the goblins in the film Labyrinth. Here you can see the workings of the engine. Now, I understood the idea of belts to drive the wheels and the roller, but how exactly the pump handle functions was beyond me. Some sort of ratcheted gears or such, I I had no idea. But I didn't let it bother me, because it's a fantasy world, and as long as it looks like it'll work, that's good enough. Someone did explain to me at some point later on how the pump handles actually drive a wheel in one direction, but I've since forgotten how it was. I remember being surprised how simple it was, but I've forgotten again. Here you can see the inventor of the machine, or at least the little fellow who claims to have invented it. His wee mates believe him. He reckons he's so clever that he wears wizardly robes, and he's so proud of his accomplishments he thinks it's quite permissible to stick a finger up at anyone. I think this figure was just one of the many variants of Snotling that the Citadel put out early on. Here you can see the base, which, like nearly every base I've ever done, it's very basic. If I keep the base as basic, then they all become quite easy to hide under piles of flock for the pictures. It's just easy to hide the bases. You don't get certain boulders and trees apparently following things around from picture to picture. You can see the Snotling crew have painted crude skulls all over the frame to tally up their kills. The score is, well, the score's bound to be inaccurate. They can't really count that high, I suppose, Snotlings. But I just told the players, it'll be an underestimate. You know, a bit of background that was very much wishful thinking. I liked this first wagon, but I wanted another, and so I embarked upon a second one. Completely different design this time. I don't really see Snotlings using the same design twice. Their construction practices aren't going to be like the production line. Here the bits are being glued together. I used Citadel plastic ogre man-trap bits. I removed the hands from them with a scalpel. And this time, it's not so much a spiky roller as a snappy spiker, but it would count as a spiky roller on the tabletop. Round shields from my bits box provided the smaller wheels. It seemed to come together quite nicely, and I like the fact that this one would look top-heavy, almost clumsy compared to the other one. I wanted a contrast to the first one's sleek design, however, Snotling style. Here it's undercoated and glued together, but I did paint the inward-facing bits first before gluing it together, just to make the painting easier. Here's the basic model, painted, with the base yet to be done, and some Snotling crew yet to be added. Unlike the first one, this has a big wheel at the front, and a raised pumping handle rather than one inside the body of the engine. There are two belts, but this time both of them are involved in turning the wheel. The snappy spiker doesn't need a belt, just a brave/foolish Snotling or two to reset it. Here it is completed. Like their mates on their first machine, these guys are also trying to record all their kills. You can see how helpful these little fellas are to each other. One of them here assisting the other one up the ladder. Mind you, he's got no legs. The model just has breeches tied around his mount's chin, so he ain't getting up there otherwise. The Snotlings are Games Workshop miniatures, mixture of the Noblars they made for the Ogre army and some much older models. The power source is two very keen Snotlings, one of which has just spotted something important to windward. This diagram's meant to show you how this very complicated machine works. To be honest, at this stage I still didn't know how pumping a handle turned a wheel only one way and not the other, but I just applied the same lazy logic as I had with the first one. Last of all, here's the painful part, supposedly for the enemy, but almost certainly it's injured its fair share of clumsy Snotling crewmen too. This is the Kitbash baggage wagon that featured in one of the Green Corsairs stories. I don't know why, but I didn't take any work in progress pictures. I think I made this quite a long time ago. But here you can see it from different angles. The figures are really old Citadel plastics. The wagon is a Tomb King's chariot, presumably looted after a battle or found abandoned somewhere or stolen from some of the greenskins, or, well, there's probably 1,000 ways these fellas could have obtained it. And I tried to make it look as if they'd fixed it up a little bit. It's pulled by two models. One's a really early plastic orc. I think it was called a drastic plastic orc. And the Goblin was one of the 10 Goblin archers that came in a 1980s Citadel box called Warhammer Fantasy Regiments. You got a box with 60 figures, 10 orcs, 10 goblins, 10 dwarfs, 10 wood elves, 10 skaven, 10 dark elves. Me and my friends, we bought one or two each and then swapped the models we didn't need with others, and so that we could bulk out our own armies. I ended up with loads of wood elves and orcs. Plastic Snotling is just along for the ride. I think that's from Warhammer Quest. Had an oval base, which I cut off to put him in the wagon. Next up, pirate goblins. This is the first batch before painting. I didn't go for loads of conversion. I just trimmed off some bits, mostly the armour. And I used Games Workshop Empire Pistolier sprue pistols, as well as Empire Militia sprue pistols, blunderbusses, cutlasses and boarding axes. Everything piratey. The standard is a ship's wheel. Not sure where I got that from. With heads hanging from it that I'd got from all sorts of sprues. These goblin scallywags began as a unit of 25, carrying stolen pistols. It was a rule in the Da Warpath's unofficial army list, which I used in an internet campaign years ago. Here you can see them all ranked up, but if you look closely, you see there's actually only 21 goblins here, because, and I think this was for the first time, I made unit fillers. They were fun to do, like little dioramas, and they've proved to be pretty useful in stories. This is the command group. You might notice here, when I took the photo, I'd forgotten to paint the flesh on the decapitated head on the standard. I thought, I'll just say it's been parboiled in cumin and turn that colour. Apparently that's what they did in the 16th and 17th century to decorate the gates of London with the heads of traitors. Parboiling them in cumin meant the pigeons didn't eat the flesh quite so quickly. But in the end, I just painted it. Here are the two unit fillers, two 2x2 bases. The first one has a table upon which a pistol is being repaired. The other has a budge barrel, a gunpowder barrel, and a chest being closely guarded by two mean-looking gobos, although I suppose all goblins look mean. Both of these then featured in one of the earlier videos. Here are the rest of them. You can see I went a bit pistol crazy, but goblins are bound to love pistols. Later on, I decided to bulk the regiment up to a strength of 40, so I painted a few extras. These are the newest of the scurvy scallywags, including one with a multi-barreled handgun, which I'm sure will work well when operated by a goblin. I made another two 2x2 unit fillers, basically because I loved making the first two. And one of them is my favourite unit filler yet, a mean goblin with a pack of ship's rats. He features in a video later on. I used a Free Company sprue torso for him, to give him the flowing coattails. The rats came from a Skaven sprue, and the leads are just cotton thread. The second filler was what would be classed as a pirate standard. I don't mean a flag, I mean like a standard image of pirates. The burying of a treasure chest. You can't see it in the picture, but the hole, it goes deeper than the base's surface. I had to cut a hole in the base and then put plastic card at the bottom so that they could be seen to be digging right through the base's surface. Here you can see them all together, 8x5. I don't know why, but this photo makes them look like a fairly small unit, but they do have the footprint of a 40-strong unit, even though there are only actually 31 goblins, 4 rats, and some furniture. The best I've saved till last. Well, in my mind, the best. Goblin pikes. I decided that greenskins fighting in Tilea are really likely to emulate the enemy's fighting style. And pikes are big in Tilea. I don't mean physically big. I mean, well, they are physically big. I mean popular. So, the simplest way I could think of was just to add extra lengths to the model's spear shafts. Here you can see the original 25-strong unit, all ranked up. I had an old metal Grom figure already painted to lead them, and I made a musician out of an old Hero Quest board game miniature. Just chopped his hand off and put a horn on it instead. There are a few more metal figures near the front, including 2 that are actually historical Viking miniatures, 25mm scale, which I got from a bargain bucket in a convention in the 80s. I just stuck gobbo heads on and they kind of look right. I think Grom looks just right in the front rank. His large belly proving he's the boss, gets all the grub he wants and more. I tried to make them look more uniform by using every one of the helmet heads on the sprues. the fur-lined ones and the normal ones. Having fought with them a few times, I discovered, pretty much the same as the Gobbo pirates, that something was missing. I needed more of them. It's always the case with goblins. You just need more. So I increased their strength too, from 25 to 40. But this time I didn't use unit fillers. I love the look of massed pikes. Now, when you put them on the field, that they really do give the distinct impression that they're a major unit that has to be dealt with. Of course, even with special campaign rules, in this case slightly weakened pike rules, they're still only goblins, and so inevitably they're just rubbish in battle. Who cares though when they look this good? I'll soon be back on track with Tilea's troubles. I think it's part 33 next, and there's a lot more to come after that. But like I said, if anyone enjoys this video, then say in the comments, and I'll try to remember to do another special or 3 along the way. Thanks.